I mean, Francis fighting son, you got to look at this. 9-0, 6-fight UFC win streak, the longest the longest streak among active UFC heavyweights, and he's never on the bottom. I mean, that's absurd. When do we ever see zeros in the statistics? I mean, there's a lot to talk about with Ciryl, but Chael, this is a guy whose ceiling seems to be nowhere near where he's at right now. His skill set is tremendous. He's young in the sport. He's continuing to evolve. And he also feels to never be overwhelmed by the moment. And I think that's a big factor.
And Meg, when you were talking about those statistics, one thing that popped off the page is that he has never been on bottom. But guys, let's take a closer look at that. Nobody's tried to put him there. We're not seeing great scrambles. We're not seeing great wrestling defense from him. We're seeing athletes who aren't even trying to get him there. They're too afraid to get close. They're keeping the range. They're respecting him. Look, kickboxers in MMA have not historically done well, but the ones that have done really well. See Maurice Smith, by example. More recent name of Israel Adesanya. Ciryl Gane has a kickboxing record a lot like Adesanya's. Now, he's not quite as dynamic, but he does understand range, and I think it's very relevant because I got to go back to Derrick Lewis, whether he takes him down or not, Brett, has to get within range to take him down. He has to threaten it. He's got to make this gritty. He cannot stay on the outside in this contest.
You bring up a really good point, Chael, because I think it's easy for any of us to sit on this desk and just be enamored by everything that Ciryl does well, but he is still young in his career. We don't know what it looks like when he's on his back, and while that's a great stat that he's never been there, eventually someday someone's going to put him there, and what's that going to look like? So I do think that there is still some mystery about this guy, of course, because of how young he is, but every single big fight that he has had, he's not losing rounds, he's not getting clipped. He has a very, very smart game plan that he will stay committed to, even if it's not necessarily what the fans want. He is here to win fights, fight intelligently, execute game plans, and he is doing all of it brilliantly. And right now, if you got a guy in Derrick Lewis who is super dangerous, who can put you out with one shot, but that is kind of how he's going to beat you, is put you out with that one shot. Everything that Ciryl Gane has shown us has shown that he is well equipped to avoid that big shot and win this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as he enters his 7th UFC bout, I mean, this is just wild, right? Almost 2 years to the day that he made his organizational debut, Brett. In terms of the mentality and that sort of calm approach, how much does that serve him when you walk into an arena like this? Not just, yes, this is a world title fight, there's a belt on the line, but you are not going to be well received as you make your walk for this fight against Derrick Lewis when you're in the Toyota Center.
Some guys can't handle that. Some guys will struggle to handle that. Other guys will walk in and have a big smile on their face when those boos come in, and I think that's going to be Ciryl Gane. The guy just has that demeanor, that personality trait that seems to help you a lot in this sport, is that he doesn't take himself too seriously, he doesn't take the sport too seriously, but his coach Fernand Lopez says that, hey, when it's time to get mean, when it's time to get nasty, trust me, I hold the pads for this guy. This guy can get very mean and very nasty. So I think even, man, we're giving this guy so many compliments, but even from a mental breakdown, this guy is just well equipped to be a champion and be very successful in this sport.
Sure, and everything's a step down, guys. Don't forget, he trains on a daily basis with Francis Ngannou. Now, you can talk about who the best fighter is or the most successful or the fastest. We cannot have an open discussion about who the scariest fighter is. It's Francis Ngannou. That happens to be Ciryl's training partner. I only bring that to you because anything that you do, you're going every day with the world champion. Anybody underneath that, even a #1 contender in Derrick Lewis, it is an environment that he's used to. You might remember when Tim Kennedy, Brian Stamp, but these military heroes were fighting. They never had any nerves. But then they would tell us, well, yeah, I used to jump out of helicopters with people firing at me. I mean, it's one of those things where if you go through a harder environment, I submit for you sparring with the undisputed champion is a pretty tough environment. If you can deal with that, I think you can make this walk.
You know, and something that we have to point out, because we talk about odds a lot, but Ciryl is not just the favorite in this matchup. He's the biggest favorite on this card, -370 as the odds sit right now for Caesar Sportsbook. That is tremendous. I mean, Brett, when you look at the matchups on this card and you look at this heavyweight main event, I mean, do the odds makers have it right?
At first, I thought, man, that's pretty high, man. It's just not giving Derrick Lewis enough credit. Yes, this guy has stretches in his fights where he doesn't look good. But then go back and look at his resume. He won those fights. There are fights where he does not look good, and then he lands that big shot. I think I'm coming around now, though, on why Ciryl is such a favorite. It's just the stylistic matchup is pretty tough, I think, for Derrick Lewis, because this isn't a guy who really tries to control range. He's happy to kind of sit back, let you come to him, and then he reacts on what you're doing. Trying to react to what Ciryl Gane is doing, we've sort of seen that play out, man. I mean, this guy is just too fast. He's one of the fastest guys in the division. He feints a lot, and if your game plan is to kind of sit back and look for that big bomb, he's going to be a hard target to land it on.
Yeah, guys, and history has to matter. Look, the odds makers are saying that Ciryl Gane has never been taken down and Derrick's got to take him down. If history says Cyryl's never been taken down and beat, what about the history that says the Black Beast has never lost a stand-up fight? That is a true statement. I've never seen him kicked in the leg so many times he falls down. I can't remember anybody knocking him down. He's never been knocked out. I mean, just by example, both of these guys are in a very different contest.
Yeah, that's fair to say. And listen, when we spoke with Derrick Lewis this week in our fighter meetings, he said, I have been working so much on my jiu-jitsu and my grappling. So maybe we'll see him attempt that takedown. Maybe he wants to be the first to add seconds to Ciryl Gane being on his back.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.